question which if I think more, I will be able to come to an answer. And this is a question where even if I give a lot of time, I won't be able to answer it, because there is nothing worse than not even attempting or not even being able to read a question. And I'm sure this way you will be able to mark many questions which you are always having a dilemma. You already know that you have not even completed one reading, then what is the shame in getting a lower score? There are certain questions where they give a trick word, because of which the meaning of the entire question changes and the answer also changes. Our mind is not trained if you're not giving enough GTs. So specifically, make yourself very attentive to such trick words. Sometimes an underdog can become the king. There has been instances where the question and the answers look very similar to the previous year question, but trust your instinct and put it to mark for review later. So in my mind, I thought I had marked the question, but I actually had not marked it. So there's no use to gamble with your future. Hi, I'm Dr Somlina. I'm a final year MD Radiology Resident at a government medical college in Kolkata. And I have got a common query from all of you, that is how to increase your scores in your GTs. And therefore, one thing I'm sure you know, but I still would like to stress on is GTs are not your final exams. They're just a tool for your learning what you're good at, but most importantly, learning the mistakes that you can make so that you do not repeat those mistakes on the final day of the examination. Okay, so let me detail you about the mistakes that we make while giving the GTs. So there are certain mistakes you will make in the initial stages of a preparation, and then there are mistakes you'll make in the later stages of a preparation. So in the initial stages, what you tend to miss is time management. Leave the last half an hour just for revision and for emergency purposes. Don't consider it. See how you are going about with the question. If you are taking more than half a minute to even process the question, probably this is a question where you need a lot of thinking, or maybe this is a question which you have not studied and is very factual and you do not know it. So it's better to leave that question now and proceed to the next question, because maybe if you had given the time to the next question, you would have answered better rather than giving time to a question which you won't be able to come to a conclusion. So that you must understand that this is a question which if I think more, I will be able to come to an answer. And this is a question where even if I give a lot of time, I won't be able to answer. You need to segregate those things during the examination and give more time to the question which you might be able to answer if you give more time, because there is nothing worse than not even attempting or not even being able to read a question. Next is, there will be a lot of questions which will not directly come from the notes that you have studied. You have to understand those questions, process those questions, break it down, and then gradually come to the answers. What happens is, in the initial stages of the study, if such a questions come to us, we feel that we have not studied well enough. That's why we are not able to mark the question, but that's not true. All of us who have cleared the examinations, we know that even if you have studied the topic a lot, there may still be questions from that topic which are totally different from the things that you have studied. There may be some connections, but still there is no direct word-to-word similarity with the previous year questions as well. Now, what to do? We may often tend to be underconfident in these situations. First thing, you should always understand that you are in the same condition as the other examinees, right? If you are facing difficulty in answering the questions, more than half of the students who are giving the test are most likely also facing difficulties in marking the question. So increase your confidence. Now try to find out some link between the facts that you have studied in that topic and the question. I'm sure by this way, even if you don't know the answer, you at least should be able to tell that which options will not be the answer. Eliminate at least two such options which will not be the answer anyhow. Now you are left with two options. Use intelligent guessing or try to find out some link between the question and the options. And I'm sure this way you will be able to mark many questions which you are always having a dilemma. But most importantly, in these questions, you should always keep your confidence high. Another very important mistakes that we make in the initial stages of our study is that we are afraid to give a GT in the initial stages itself. We feel that after we have completed the entire syllabus, we'll give the GT after that, after completing one reading. But that's very wrong. That's not what you should do, because you might think that now if I give a GT, I will get very poor marks and that will dampen my confidence. But that's not the way how it should be, right? You should always keep it in mind that the marks that you would be getting in the GTs, they're not going to take you anywhere. They're not going to offer you a seat. The marks in GT is just for you to learn and to grow. Then remember, there is no big teacher than the mistakes that you make in an examination. Give the exam, get whatever marks you're getting, see the mistakes, and what is more important is you should not be repeating the same mistake in your final exam. That should be our motto. Our motto is not to score a very good marks in GT, because we are not going to get a seat based on our GT marks. Our goal is to see which subjects and which typical topics we are getting wrong and preparing it better so that we are not carrying forward these mistakes to the final exam. I used to study with Marrow, and at the end of each GT, they used to give us an analysis about which subject is your strongest and which subject is your weakest. And that's a very good thing, you know. Suppose after 2 months of starting studying, I'm given a GT and my 18th and 19th rank subjects were biochemistry and pharmacology. I would always make it a point कि next GT में ये दो subjects मेरे end में ना आए. I would take it as a challenge and I would study it harder so that in the next GT, biochemistry and pharmacology at least, I'm scoring in the first 10 subjects out of the 19. And make sure to start giving GTs from the very first of your preparation. Maybe in the early phases, the frequency of giving GT, you can keep it, longer, but keep giving GTs. You will be getting marks lower than someone who has completed the entire syllabus and revised it 2 or 3 times. So because you already know that you have not even completed one reading, then what is the shame in getting a lower score in GT, which is just going to be an evaluation by yourself for yourself. Okay, now let's let's see what are the mistakes that we usually tend to make in the later stages of our preparation. There are certain questions where they give a trick word because of which the meaning of the entire question changes and the answer also changes. Yes, like except, all of them, but, all of these except. So what we do is we often have a tendency to answer a question very fast because they seem to be very familiar. You know the question, you know the answer, you are just marking it and leaving it. But the thing is, the examiners are not so stupid, right? So they will try to test us. They will try to test the presence of our mind and try to see how attentive we are while marking the examination. So maybe they will keep the entire language same, entire language of the question, even the options also they will be giving same, but they will just insert one word, except, not all, things like this. So our mind is not trained if you're not giving enough GTs. So make it a point to read the question well. Specifically, make yourself very attentive to such trick words whenever they are present. And another thing in the later stages of our study is we might tend to develop some overconfidence. Remember, sometimes even the biggest players are bowled out, and sometimes an underdog can become the king. So be humble, keep your feet on ground. Even if you're getting a very good marks in your GTs, in your mock test, do not allow overconfidence to creep in. Often because of our overconfidence, we may answer a question and not even read the other options. We read the question and straight away mark the answer because maybe the question has come a lot of times in the previous year questions, and therefore we are very much sure, we are too sure, and we are very confident that this is going to be the answer. But remember, there has been instances where the question and the answers look very similar to the previous year question, but there was some change in one word in the question, or maybe there are two very similar options and I have to choose an option which suits better to this question. And if you're not reading all the options, how will you come to a consensus about which answer is better? So always make it a point to, even if you're very confident, if you're 100% confident that this is going to be the answer, but still read the question completely and read all of the options. Next is, there are certain mistakes that we tend to make whether we are in the early stages of preparation or whether we are at the end stages. Number one is revising. Always go back and check for all the answers while marking, even if you have the slightest suspicion and your sixth sense tells you something that this might not be the answer which I'm thinking. Trust your instinct and put it to mark for review later. So while revising, revise all the answers that you have marked, and along with that, give little more time to the answers that you have marked to review for later. I'm sure if you haven't been doing revision before submitting, and now if you start doing the revision, you can understand certain silly mistakes that you make. For myself, certain questions I thought in my mind that I have marked it, but I did not mark. So when I was revising, I found out that in my mind I thought I had marked the question, but I actually had not marked it. So there are certain mistakes that is specific for you, that you will get to know about your pattern of mistakes if you start revising from the GT itself. Next is how many number of questions to attempt. Remember, those questions which you know, nothing. You cannot even make a blind guess. You cannot even make an intelligent elimination. It is suppose very factual or from a topic that you haven't heard of. So leave those questions. There's no use to gamble with your future. But those questions which you know that you have heard the topic somewhere and can make a guess, please make it a point to mark those questions. Why I'm telling you? Because you have marked 10 more questions by guessing and eliminating, and out of that you have got only 4 correct and 5 wrong. How much marks you're getting? Calculate, tell me. Yes, obviously you're going to get a positive marks, and you don't even know the difference that even 3 questions can make to your rank and your future. So these are some of the tips that I wanted to share with you people. Keep studying, keep hustling. All the best for your preparation.